Okay, so you joined me in the office today as I want to talk about this lens right here. This is the 16-80 f4 lens, and I currently think this is the best travel lens that you can buy for the Fuji X-Mount line of cameras. So I recently travelled to Porto back in October of this year. I'll showcase some of the photos that I've got up here just so you don't have to look at my face for the whole video. So before that trip I was debating which lenses I wanted to take with me, and I was choosing between the 23 and 50mm f2 primes or this 16-80 f4. So what ended up being the deciding factors for me choosing the 16-80 f4? So first of all, just its size and ease of use. And instead of having to juggle two prime lenses, depending on what I was shooting on the day, I could just stick this camera on my lens and just shoot throughout the day, throughout the week, and just not have to worry about switching lenses. You know, if I was at 60mm and all of a sudden I needed to shoot something at 80mm something was happening in the distance, I could just quickly zoom in, get the shot, and I could just carry on about my day then. Also, we weren't very lucky with the weather whilst we were out there. We just got rain pretty much every day. So if I'd taken the 23 and the 50 and I was trying to switch, between two lenses, it wouldn't have been the greatest in wet weather. And this being weather resistant, this lens, paired with my XT5, which is also weather resistant, it just meant that I didn't need to worry about anything getting wet. And because this lens was staying on the camera, I knew that there was never going to be any water getting into the sensor because I wasn't switching lenses and stuff. So yeah, this just made shooting in the rain a lot easier. So next up is just how versatile this lens is. So with it being a 16-80, it's just such a fantastic zoom range to have. And with it being a constant f4 aperture as well, it's just a really nice lens to use. A lot of the photos that I ended up catching on this trip were in between the 30 and 50mm ranges. That's where I usually tend to stay when I'm shooting normally. But then I did end up getting some 60mm shots of the Dom Luis Bridge, and then there was some other shots that I got that were kind of across the river and some different compositions that were a bit tighter that ended up using the 70 and 80mm ranges. So it was really, really good for the location that we were in. So as mentioned, this is an f4, and it's f4 constantly throughout the zoom range, which is really nice. It's not ideal for low light situations. It's not the fastest lens you can get. But for my shooting style and what I was taking whilst we were away and what I've taken previously on this lens, f4 is perfectly fine for me. Plus this lens has built-in image stabilization, so pair that with my XT5 that has image stabilization as well, and I could shoot at really slow shutter speeds and still get really sharp images. So when it comes to the price of this lens, I ended up buying this on the used market and I paid £375, which I think is a steal for this lens. It's such a good lens for that price. So I do recommend, if you can find a good one used at that price, I'd definitely recommend having it in your kit. And currently at the time of recording, if you want to pick one of these up new, they're £699 here in the UK, which again is still a pretty good price for the versatility that you're getting with this lens. So what are the negatives that come with this lens? So I have seen people online saying that this doesn't have the sharpest image quality out there for the Fujifilm lenses, but I usually see people comparing this to the 16-50 f2.8, which is a little bit more of a higher end, more expensive lens. So in the UK at the moment, those are currently retailing for around £880, I think it is. So it is a bit of a significant jump up. And obviously you are getting the f2.8, which is nice for low light, and you are getting superior image quality. But I've had this lens for around about 12 months now. I think it might be a little bit more. And in all the shooting I've done with it, in loads of different conditions, loads of different lighting, I've never looked at the images and thought, oh, they don't look very sharp. I think it produces really good images for what it is. And yeah, if you compare it to another lens, like, it's probably not going to be the sharpest, but if you don't have that lens, like, you're never really going to know. You're never really going to be able to compare side by side. And with this being paired with my XT5, which has the new 40 megapixel sensor from Fujifilm, I've been doing some like really tight cropping on my images. I've ended up experimenting with some panel crops recently. I'll put a few up on screen now, and I've really been enjoying how these have been turning out. I love the ones that I got from Porto. They were really nice. And they were the first time I really experimented with that, and I've been doing a few more since. And because they're like a really tight crop, like they're taking a lot of top and bottom off the image, even those crops are still really, really sharp from this lens. So yeah, I don't really have any issues with the image quality from my shooting style. And as mentioned earlier, this is only an f4, so you know, if you're looking to shoot a lot in low light, it's not the best in low light conditions, but if you do have one of the more modern Fujifilm cameras, I do find that they handle higher ISO quite well, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. And then the main negative to this lens is the weight of it. It is quite a hefty lens. I don't think the size is too bad for the zoom range that you're getting, but it is quite a hefty lens. So I think if you're shooting on the XH2 or 2S, because those have a larger grip, I don't think you'd notice the weight of this lens quite as much. But if you're shooting on some of the smaller cameras like me, on the X-T5, it goes quite front heavy. So if you're shooting all day, you can get a bit of fatigue in your hand, and you definitely do feel the front weight on the camera. Definitely goes a lot more front heavy. But I think it's an all right compromise for the versatility that you get, and you don't really notice it in your bag compared to like carrying 2 or 3 primes either. It's probably around the same weight as that. So yeah, just keep that in mind. It is a bit of a heavy lens. But yeah, overall, I think this is like the perfect travel lens if you want to keep your gear to a minimum. So basically, I just had this attached to my X-T5. I didn't have the hood on, because with the hood on, if you put that on, it's a little bit, it sticks out a little bit more. You can see it there. So I was just shooting without the hood on. It made it a lot easier to put in and out of my sling bag that I was carrying. And yeah, it was just a great lens. Really enjoyed using it out there. I think especially if you're going to a new location and you don't really know what you're going to be shooting, I think this is a better choice over some of the prime lenses. Just because if you don't know what you're shooting, you don't want to be like trying to switch lenses if you're trying to get a shot really fast. So yeah, I do find this is a great travel lens. But yeah, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below whether you agree with me or whether you've got another Fujifilm lens that you think is good for travel. And yeah, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more content like this, and I'll catch you in the next one.